Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 10 of the anime series, Arslan Senki, or the Heroic Legend of Arslan. And this episode began with a level of intensity I wasn't expecting, but entirely makes sense with the fact that they had the run-in with Silver Mask in the previous episode, and so they are now effectively on the run. They've come out of hiding and they're traversing the countryside, and they've accrued 500 troops chasing them right on their coattails. You begin to realize Daryun is not part of this posse consisting of Arslan, Narcissus, Elam, Ferengis, and Give. He has gone on ahead and he's seeking the help of the Kashan Fortress's Lord Hodir. This is somebody who falls into the line of the Parsian monarchy and everything. And this actually works to my delight and surprise. And it's interesting because once we get into Kashan Fortress, I'm getting the vibe, Arslan is noticing there are still slaves being kept there. We know how he's, beginning to feel about this, and the idea being instilled in him with Narcissus of freeing them and completely reforming the policy of his kingdom, if he were to become king and everything. And we got this Hodir guy who's like, he is just smooching the boot. He is a ass kiss of world-renowned, going along with everything Arslan is saying, even to the point when Arslan announces his idea of reforming this policy and freeing the slaves. This guy goes right along with it, but the entire time you have Narcissus eagle-eyeing this guy, and if you're not already picking up the vibe as it is as a viewer, extrapolated from the way Narcissus is eagle-eyeing him, you can get the vibe that something is amiss here. There's more going on. And I don't trust this guy, Hodir, from the get-go. So it's interesting to see that play out, that he has this idea of breaking Arslan away from his posse, putting them off to the side and everything. And, Narcissus knows what's going on, and he's letting it play out to see how far this guy's willing to go effectively. And there's a lot of talk, this guy's trying to manipulate and push Arslan's hand to accepting his own daughter as a wife, as a queen tentatively, which would give him more power and more respect and everything like that. And as well as reconsider his own thoughts of reforming this, freeing of the slaves. And it's kind of like, you're going to do it my way, kid, or you're not going to make it out of here alive, is how it's all left. Arslan ends up sneaking out and, regrouping with his posse, and they have this whole conversation about, we knew what was going to be happening, we needed to see how far it was going to go, and here's the plan we're going to set into action, because obviously Narcissus knows how far, by this point, Hodir's gonna go. But then, finally, by the end, this guy comes with a full troop, a full force, to confront Arslan again in the middle of the night. He thinks he's got everybody else knocked out with this knockout gas. And sure enough, Arslan is suited up. He's ready to roll. He's like, look, we're getting out of here. You've disrespected me. You're obviously, you have machinations going on. We're not fitted to stay here any longer. This guy's coming in and saying, well, we're going to put to death Daryun and Narcissus because they're going to maybe eventually try to manipulate His Highness and all this BS. That's exactly what this guy is doing. He's trying his damnedest to turn Arslan away from his most trusted benefactors. And Arslan throws that right in his face, and of course they go to leave, but this guy isn't having it. He sicks the troops on them, and it's insane because this guy is not trying to sidle necessarily with the Lusitanians. It's all his own sort of concoction. It's all his own idea. He's operating outstandingly, from the entire corruption of the Lusitanian forces and their monarchy and all that kind of stuff. And we see that this guy is just bloodthirsty and vicious because Arslan will not go along with his plan. Arslan must be put to death. He must be thinking, as sort of a B-grade honor, if I kill this kid, I'll still have some level of power and prowess in the Lusitanian, sort of faction. And as we see, you have Daryun, Ferengis, Give, Narcissus, they are all ready to just unleash havoc in answer to this, and they do. They completely flots the entirety of Hodir's plan, even to the point where Hodir is trying to make a stabbing jab at Arslan, one final blow to take out Arslan, and Daryun puts a stop to it. it was insane, too, what follows, because Arslan has this idea that all of the slaves are going to look at him as some sort of angelic benefactor for freeing them. But there's almost this level of, psychological bent mentality where, because their lord, even though they were slaves under him, because their lord was somewhat, you could say, benevolent and helpful to them, and they had enough food and drink and whatever to survive, just barely, they began to see this as gifts. They were very sort of succumbing to the humility of the scenario, and they've been mind-bent to think this guy is our worthy leader. When they hear he's dead, and when they hear Arslan and one of Arslan's posse put this guy to death, they don't care what the reasoning was. They don't care who this kid is. Their leader, their benevolent leader, has been taken from them. And it's kind of like, Narcissus could have perfectly illustrated that this would happen. But as the discussion unfolds after this whole segment, when they just barely get out of the Kashan Fortress, he's like, you have to experience in order to learn the most effectively sometimes. And that's what I needed to happen with you. You can't just roll in there, kill their master, and be like, hey, man, you're free, They're going to look like you took something very important away from them. And it's somewhat of a trauma, somewhat of a, psychological problem, but they're molded into it after so long a time living their lives the way they've lived them. And so, we end this episode with this overhanging question, with a scene toward the end after the credits. This guy, he's in Peshawar, where essentially Arslan and his posse are going to be going next. But his name is Bahamut, and he has this scroll of sorts that was gifted in Variz's death, at the hands of Silver Mask. And I think it plays into this overhanging question of what is Arslan's true lineage? Because we have it, discussed between Narcissus and Daryun that Arslan could be the son of, Andragoras' brother. And that is very intriguing, but of course you have one or the other of them cast it aside as folly, because the timeline doesn't match up with how old Arslan is supposed to be. Maybe he's actually older than we think he is, to have coincided with being born at a time before that brother was killed by Andragoras. Whatever the case, I've long suspected since the, first episode of this series that something was amiss as it pertains to his lineage. Why are his, air quotes, parents so disdainful seemingly of him, or at least unconcerned with him more than would be normal? In Andragoras' case, it's almost as though he's not going to treat him like a son because maybe he's not his son. The mother seems to also be keeping Arslan at an arm's length, and that could be any number of reasons, from she doesn't want to show affection to him and come under the even more negative light of Andragoras before he lost his command and he became captive of Silver Mask and the Lusitanians. It's just highly intriguing to me, and I can't wait to find out, put those puzzle pieces together to have a definitive answer. What is Arslan's lineage? You had that one cat, Carlin, just before he died, talking about, as they reference in this episode, the true heir to the kingdom will step up. Is he talking Silver Mask, Hermes, because he's the son of Andragoras' brother? I don't know, but one way or the other, how does Arslan fit into that? Obviously he is meant to take over this monarchy at some point. Every episode ends with the boy who would be king, so we know that is the sort of finality of his journey. But what exactly is going on as far as who are his parents? Is it going to turn out that Tahimine, sired this child with Andragoras' brother, and now Andragoras, through whatever fashion, is forced to have taken on Arslan as a son to solidify his own sort of lineage? Maybe he's only keeping Arslan there because he doesn't want, Silver Mask to take over. I think he tried to kill Silver Mask just as he did his own brother, for Tahimine, and to keep that kid from being the next monarch, the next king. And so he sidled up with Arslan sort of, reluctantly, because he has no other choice. If he wants to see his lineage continue, he's got to use Arslan, is basically where I think it might be going. And so, of course, I can't wait to see what happens from this point along those lines. Who are the true parents? I think Tahimine probably is Arslan's real mother, but that remains to be seen. It could go any which way, and whether or not Andragoras is his father, I suspect highly that he's not. But then who is? And what are the ramifications of that going to be as it pertains to the Lusitanians and what they're doing, to Silvermask Hermes trying to reclaim his own throne that he believes is, his due justice or what have you. And yeah, it's just highly intriguing to see which direction all of this is going to go and what revelations will come. Especially, as I say, because this Bahman guy, he's in Peshawar. That's where they're heading next. And he knows something, one way or the other. He knows the answer, I believe, with this parting gift, as he called it, from Varese. So it'll be interesting to see what is revealed. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 10 of Arslan Senki, if you've seen it, and what you speculate the revelations are to come. Do you think it pertains to, Arslan's actual familial lineage? Do you think there's more going on there? Who do you suspect might be his parents based on all the clues we have been given thus far? Let me know in the comments below. As always, spoiler free if you don't mind, if you're familiar with the source material or the former versions of this story that have been done in anime form, or the novels, everything, because I'm largely unfamiliar with it and I only want to speculate. I don't want it to have, stuff spoiled for me. So in any case, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.